He has since issued a statement, or his office has since issued a statement. I can share it with you. It's a very quick one. Former President John Mahama has called on the Ghana Police Service to expedite investigations into the circumstances leading to the violence which was perpetrated against members and supporters of the NDC in Thursday's by-election in the Ayawaso West Wogon constituency in Accra. Scores of NDC members and supporters, including the Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Pram, Mr. Sam George, were brutally attacked and injured after several rounds of ammunition were fired by fully armed masked gunmen who rode in military-grade vehicles marked Police SWAT. Subsequently, Mr. Mahama suspended his flag-bearership campaign in the Volta region and returned to Accra to visit those who were injured and on admission in hospital. Addressing NDC delegates in Jode in the Kitu North constituency after resuming his campaign in the Volta region on Friday, Mr. Mahama described the attack as an affront on Ghana's constitution. He said the disruption of Thursday's by-election is a product of the NPP's all die be die. Mr. Mahama warned that the NDC would resist any attempt by the government to subvert Ghana's constitution, as it happened in the Ayawaso West Wogon constituency by-election. This was signed by James Ajinim Boateng, who's a spokesperson for the former president. But on the phone, we have Mr. Kofi Ahin. He's the national coordinator of CODEO. He joins us now. Mr. Ahin, good afternoon. Thank you for your time. You've heard the response of the EC chair. She says she dissociates her organization from your comments and that the violence had nothing to do with the election. They did not mar the election. They happened at a private residence, not at polling stations, and that the security arrangements that were made for the election worked perfectly with no hiccups. Mr. Ahin, you accept her response?
Yeah, could you, thank you very much for the question. I don't think we are directly accusing the EC of masterminding or maybe knowing something about what happened at the residence of the gentleman who was contesting. What we are saying is that it was out of that incident that a whole lot of things happened. I'm sure the polling stations that were closer by, those who were in the queue may have been intimidated or may have been threatened by the fact that they had heard something was happening. Okay? Then again, we also said in our report that in some cases, you have as many as 15 people, 13 people as security. The lady herself, the chairperson of the EC, said in this press conference that nowhere did they earmark any polling station as violent prone. So if you are going into an election where the EC is saying there's nothing on paper that a police station is going to be violent prone, why do we have 13, 15 security men, sometimes some in plain clothes, roaming another station, some with hooded mask and others? You see, so all that we are saying is that you cannot delink security matters. The EC cannot be delinked from the security matters at the polling station. They plan security at the polling station together. They plan it together. And that is why whenever there's an election, the security men go to the EC to ask, is there any area where you would want us to beef up security? So that is it. We are not blaming them for anything that happened at the violation place. All we are saying is that many people at security were parading, were going around, and that alone was intimidating to voters.
Right. Now, Mr. Ahin, she also says that they would have wished that in your report you would have commented on the overall smooth operation that the EC ran during this by-election, but you only chose to focus on the incidents that were of concern.
We did that in the morning. We were talking about how it has taken off smoothly, no problem was encountered. We spoke about that. We spoke about the smoothness of the exercise. I think maybe she's forgotten. The EC mentioned, CODEO mentioned about that the exercise went on smoothly. People were going about their duty, fine, except that the attendance wasn't that good. People were coming in trickles and that kind of thing. We mentioned that.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, what would your ultimate response be to the EC chair at this point? That you weren't talking to her?
What we are saying is that we are not blaming the EC for what happened at Bawulish. We ourselves were not even there. So we didn't even comment on that. What we are saying is that we are not happy about the fact that in this day in Ghana, you can go to a police station and you find somebody wearing a hood or a mask. I mean, all over the world, there's nobody, no nation does that.
Right.
We are not. It's like a ninja. People dress like ninjas, or armed robbers going into rooms at night. You can't do that.
Okay.
And I don't think we are to introduce such a thing into our election.
Right.
That is the fear.
Right. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Ahin. And this conversation is by no means over, but thanks for your contribution on that matter. Now, here in the studio with us, of course, we have Mr. Kwamwa and Mr. Akamba from the NCCE and the NDC, respectively. And I want to start with you, Mr. Kwamwa. Your organization issued a statement yesterday. It was signed by you. And this statement was quite categorical. I want to quote a couple of paragraphs. You said that regrettably, the NCCE has observed the growing trend of acts of violence that are becoming a brand of our by-elections and calls for immediate action to nip the menace in the bud. And then you said it's unfortunate the political parties, especially the NPP and the NDC, have continually disowned existing political thugs. But these groups continue to provide them service that hitherto ought to be provided by the traditional security institutions. The NCC vehemently voices out its displeasure and wishes to state that whether these groups owe allegiance to the NPP or the NDC, political party vigilantes must not be allowed any space to operate in our democracy. And then very strongly you said the NPP and NDC cannot hold this country to ransom, intimidating voters and citizens with their political party hoodlums during election sessions for their parochial interest. There's more we'll talk about a bit later, but for now, I mean, this is your statement, Mr. Kwamwa. You signed it. What has yesterday's event got to do with party vigilantism?
Thank you. You saw what went on over there, and the event that led to the nasty incidents in the constituency. The accusations and counter-accusations from the two parties. We are bringing our men, these people are bringing their men. The other will also say, okay, we are also bringing our men. Mr. Akamba is here. He will tell you that they were accused that they were bringing the Azoka boys. And even at some point, it came up, the allegations came up that they had brought them. And they also said, yes, of course, we hear the invisible voice, what's the name? Invisible voices. Invisible forces are also coming, and they are here. The evidence is with them, with the two parties. They told us on the airwaves that yes, you have brought yours, and we have also brought ours. That is what we heard.
But what we're seeing, I mean, we've seen the images of what happened. These are individuals who turned up in police vehicles. They're in uniform. Today, we have heard from the national security, a member of national security, who says that these individuals were deployed by national security. So again, what has it got to do with party vigilantism?
Fine, thank you. If they were deployed by the national security, you have seen the pictures. Is that professional? Is that how we want our professional security people to conduct themselves? Even in the face of provocation, is that how we will go with live bullets? You have seen everything. We need not belabor this issue at all.
So it's their unprofessionalism that is leading you to the conclusion that they are party vigilantes?
we were linking all the nasty things over there to an issue that we have consistently raised. That political party vigilantism is a danger to our democracy.
I guess I'm asking you to show us the vigilantism. I mean, a state institution has claimed ownership of these individuals.
And I'm saying that, is that conduct professional?
So that
do
makes them
you agree that that is professional? Vigilantes? Is that professional?
No, I'm asking whether that makes them vigilantes.
Don't put words into my mouth.
No, I'm asking a question.
We have linked the, what do you call it, political party chaos, the chaotic events at the Ayawaso constituency to what we have always spoken against, because that is what they have traded. The words that they themselves have traded between the NPP and the NDC. They have always said that the other one was bringing their groups. And so if the national security claims responsibility for this, fine, maybe we are wrong. But is that how a professional security personnel should conduct themselves?
What would you prescribe as a remedy at this point? What should the state institutions seek to do to fix what we've seen happening?
It's a long way, but at least we can look at an immediate and a long-term solution to the problem. We have started talking to all key stakeholders, including the political parties and the national security and the IGP. And all these institutions, interestingly, are very, very willing to support our cause. I cannot sit down here and give you the details of where we have reached. But so far, so good. We will be coming up with a roadmap which will lead to the solution, and we'll present that to His Excellency the President. Since it is work in progress, I will say that let us leave that on the burner now.
Okay.
We will revisit it as soon as we conclude work on that.
So you're working on a solution?
Sure.
All right. Now, Mr. Akamba, I was pleased when I heard you were going to be here, because I wanted to hear from a party executive an explanation for what we're about to see. This is the former president speaking in the Volta region just yesterday, very soon after the violence in Ayawaso, West Wogon. This is what he had to share by way of his take on what had happened. He was addressing this rally after he had come to visit some of the casualties in hospital in Accra. Let's watch this.
MPP is taking this power as a matter of life and death. They said it already. They said all die, be die. And they are acting out and living the reality of the all die, be die. I'm sure that this evening, when you turn on your televisions, you will see what happened at Ayawaso West. And so we are not going to joke in 2020. And I'm sounding a warning to the MPP. We're going to match them boot for boot. We respect the constitution of this country. And NDC is a democratic party. And that's why we abide by the rules of the constitution. But the same constitution says that Ghanaians should resist anybody who attempts to subvert the constitution. And when you go rampaging with forces and intimidating people when they should come out and vote, you are subverting Ghana's constitution. And we have a right to resist you. And so we'll get a full briefing of what happened. But I just want to sound a caution that NDC has revolutionary roots. And that when it comes to unleashing violence, nobody can beat us in unleashing violence. It is just that we midwife this country's democracy. And so we must be the first to respect the country's democracy. And that is why we are acting as a party that is very docile and respecting the rule of law.
So, the former president sounds a caution to the government, says that the NDC has revolutionary roots, and when it comes to election violence, nobody can match the NDC in election violence. Mr. Akamba, this is the former president speaking. Should we be concerned?
Good evening, and good evening to your cherished viewers and yourself, and my uncle seated here. I have a concern. I'm sure if my uncle Ekwama has the opportunity, he would have withdrawn that portion that he actually mentioned the NDC in respect of these violent acts that were perpetrated to ordinary citizens of this country. And I should rather be seen as a dark day for our constitution and democracy. And I think that the NCC is so unfair to us as a political party. Yet again, I can understand him. I mean, you are in a country that you have a president that is commanding some kind of militant group. So if you don't do the comparison, or if you don't pair the two of us, I'm sure violence will be lynched on him and his ACP.
Well, let's not make speculations here, but why do you feel he was unfair? Why do you feel he was unfair?
I disagree with
Fair enough, I'll give you an opportunity to respond. But why do you feel he was unfair?
Yes, you see, the NDC did not get itself involved in all that happened. Yesterday, I saw how, I'm sure that Kodil has been very charitable to the EC. Why am I saying that? The voting centers was so intimidating. Very, very intimidating. And I don't know how people would have been convinced actually to come and vote. That is how come it even affected the MPP itself. Even though we withdrew, it gave them a low 10. They thought they were doing us. They end up being the victim because they had put all these guys, we call them like hoodlums, they have put them in to actually commit mayhem. The national security, what is the role, what is the national security role when it comes to our elections?
Well, I want to hear that, but you were in the process of explaining why you think NCC has been unfair.
Yes,
to you.
I'm just explaining because
Okay.
the NDC, we had no business with any other invisible force or Delta force. Yesterday, what did happen? My colleague and brother, Honorable Sam George, I'm just getting the proper briefing that one of our women organizers who was attacked because these hoodlums wanted to slap her and take a phone out from her, a deputy national woman organizer. So Sam George went there and said, what is this? Why are you doing this? She fought back. And then she walked to the police station. It actually happened at the polling center. So I'm sure that Madam Jean Mensah was not properly briefed about it. And then the polling center is just a stone throw from the polling center to what do they call it? The candidate's house, our candidate's house. So when Sam George questioned them, why are you doing this? And I think one of them said, if you joke, we'll beat you, we'll kill you. So then he said, you come to a man's own home and kill him. If you had gone to La Revelation, where everybody knows that's our stronghold, the end is a stronghold, the whole place was invaded by supposed hoodlums that call themselves national security, police with rioter GS, in our stronghold, looking very intimidating. And I'm sure my uncle himself didn't go to the ground, so he didn't see the situation there. But it looked very intimidating. And so Sam George questioned them. That is when the beating started. And actually one of them fired. And when Sam George sensed danger, he started running. And I'm told there was a man that even has, he has a house closer. You saw the man that was lying there? He was beaten merciless in his own house, home. They beat him up. This gentleman ran into our candidate's house. This MPP hoodlums that call themselves, today the national security is claiming them. because they want to do the work of the police. They are actually telling the police to back off from the investigation because we own them.
We don't have independent verification of what you're saying.
I can tell you why. We have identified some of those gentlemen. There's a gentleman that is called Double. I'm getting some names again, Mohammed and some other names from Agbogbolish and all that. People are identifying them and bringing the names of those gentlemen. They live in a community where people know them. So their names are coming up, but let the national security, whoever is in charge, know that crime has no limit. Whatever you do one day, you will be accounted for it if there's a change of government. Even if you are a police officer, you cannot go away from this.
Is this what you're saying, your position as the national organizer of the NDC, that if you win power, you will prosecute those you believe to be responsible for this
Obviously,
violence?
if the police fail to do it, we will do it. If the police fail to do it, we will do it. Listen, Chief, you will not... Did you see the kind of weapons they were holding? Is that a work of national security? What does the national security do? They go on about shooting, trying to kill people? Is that what national security does? Or is national security supposed to protect the citizenry? They are supposed to protect us, you know that, against any other violence that should be happening on the citizen. National security don't go after its own citizens. They are supposed to prevent anything from happening in this country. Rather, they go in and do this damage that they did to the NDC. And NCC is condemning both of us. What did the NDC do? We didn't come, we're unarmed, we're not holding weapons, we're not holding anything. Now, if you know the NDC, like you heard the former president say, over the years, the NDC had come to some realization that we need to let democracy happen. I mean, if you look at partners in development, it's the NDC that look at the airport, the projects that we have done. Why should we sit down for any other government to come and destroy? So we have taken it cool, and the MPP keep doing it to us.
Okay.
And I'm sure that, for me, what happened yesterday, I've heard the police and their statement. They didn't need to put the statement there. They should be arresting Samuel Oku and Co. by now.
Why?
We have identified one of the gentlemen, well armed, who we are told is Samuel Oku's bodyguard.
But you've identified him from what? Was he one of the people who was committing the
Did you see the dressing?
act?
The dressing that the guys who committed the crime did? Yes, he was part of it.
So he was wearing one of those uniforms.
You didn't see.
I saw that. But yes, it's kind of like saying that if a police officer misconducts himself, all other police officers should be arrested.
No, listen, no, not at all. People have identified this gentleman as people who were there.
Okay, Mr. Akamba, because we don't have a lot of time, please, your response to what your the former president, John Dramani Mahama, said, and I want to quote him. He said they will match the authorities boot for boot, and that the NDC has revolutionary roots, and that there is no party that can execute electoral violence better than the NDC.
I'm sure the former president was even a bit milder. Yesterday, when I got out of my house in the morning and I saw heavy security presence, I was alarmed. But again, I said that it's good for our democracy. If people are going to be protected, we must have a peaceful country. It's only the armed robber or a thief. When you see a police, you are afraid. So I was happy. Little did I know that these were people that they were sending after harmless human beings. We're not holding gun. If we knew that this is what we were going to do, maybe we would have had a plan B. But now that we know that this is what the national security has recruited people against its own citizens who are NDC people, there will be a plan B.
So what you are saying is you are promising us electoral violence.
We are saying that there will be a plan B.
Yeah, so I'm asking you, are you promising Ghanaians electoral violence?
There will be a plan B. I'm not sure that if we knew that the MPP was going to do what they did to us yesterday, I'm sure that they wouldn't have taken it easy.
So again, to clarify, because we like clarity, the former president says that no party is better at electoral violence than you. You are saying that there will be a plan B. Clarify for us. Are you threatening electoral violence?
I am sure that you are aware, also aware, that I will not drop all my arsenals on air.
So that's a yes.
I say,
you are threatening electoral violence, but you are sparing us the details.
I'm saying that, listen, if we knew that we're going to be taken by surprise like this yesterday, I'm sure that the MPP would have respected us by now.
Don't you feel the people of Ghana need to know? If
I'm saying that if the MPP, if we knew they were going to take us unawares, I'm sure by now they would have respected us.
Why?
Because you see, this is pure democracy. Myself and my colleagues in the MPP, who actually, my colleague Edem Agwana, the youth organizer of the MPP, actually instructed people to beat him. To beat him.
We can't independently corroborate this.
In the full glare.
Yes,
of,
I mean, you have the luxury of
yes,
saying these things, but we have to deal with facts.
Yes.
So we can't independently corroborate that.
You can actually call him, he would say it if you want to get the details of it. Adam Egbana himself, and I've said it several times together with him on several. I was thinking that this is purely democracy. If the EC was sending police officers, maybe 2-3 police officers.
The EC said they didn't send the police officers.
No, but they send security officers to take care of the elections. Is that right?
Not the EC, no. They said they simply told the police how many.
They needed 4.
Yeah,
so 4 police officers were there. I'm sure if you ask your reporters, that if you got there, you saw people in plain clothing, in pickups, at some points that look scary.
Okay.
And I'm saying that if we knew,
you would have had a plan B.
Would have had
so you are threatening electoral violence.
We will get there.
You will get to electoral violence.
We will get to that point when we have to cross it. We will.
Well, Mr. Kwamwa, you know, you were concerned about electoral violence, but you're hearing about Plan B, and the former president is touting the electoral violence credentials of his party. How does this make you feel?
I'm so sad, and it's good Joshua is close by. We'll have a good chat when we leave here, that the interests of Mother Ghana reign supreme. And the people in whose interest you serve also have the power to say, okay, we trust you, we have confidence in you, or we don't trust you. We should always remember. I am so saddened by what is going on, especially the accusations and counter-accusations. And for it to get to this level, and in our statement we said it, that we should be very careful as a country. We are not careful and we start the fire, to be very, very difficult to quench it. We want to appeal, Joshua, this is a very, very passionate appeal to the leadership of the NDC and the leadership of the MPP to ensure that in all your actions, you remember that you serve the good people of this country, and there is a constitution that we have all adopted to run the governance of this country. So whatever action that we take should be within the remits of this constitution.
Obviously.
And we should also not forget that there have been generations that preceded our coming. I'm sure they also had their challenges, but they did not burn this country down. So we should be careful not to burn Ghana down.
Thank you.
Chief,
thank you for that.
We had presidents.
30 seconds.
Yes, we had presidents. We had President Rawlings. We had President Kufuor. We had President Mills. We had President John Dramani Mahama. We have had a president, even at the point that he was a flag bearer, he promised us that he had a militant group and that he would leave if he released the militant group. We will see. We had him, he said it here. At the point, even said that this country will bend, will come to a place of no return if the EC. That time, my uncles and brothers were here. We've heard all this coming from.
Did you approve of those comments?
We didn't.
So
today,
how do you feel about former President Mahama's comments?
Today, that's the language the MPP understands and its leader.
And so you are talking to the NPP?
The MPP and its leader understand.
How about the people?
What makes this one unique with Nana Akufo-Addo as the president of this country is that police were seen shepherding these guys to commit this mayhem. That's what makes it dangerous. You see, if you shepherd, it has always been between us and our colleagues in the MPP. Today, the security services themselves are claiming ownership to this violence. The security services, the national security is claiming that yes, we did it. In police uniform, in police SWAT vehicles. That's what makes it dangerous. And that is what will make the former president make these statements.
So you support that statement?
Oh, sure, 100%. If there's 200%, I will.
All right. Well, that's Joshua Kamba. He's the national organizer for the NDC. You also heard from Mr. Ekwamwa, who is the vice chairman of the NCCE. Gentlemen, thank you both for your time. I'm going to very quickly make reference to two statements that have been released. One by Shraj condemning the violence at Ayawaso West Wuogon, and the Greater Accra Regional Peace Council. They condemn the violence, Greater Accra Regional Peace Council, and they call on security agencies to be more proactive during these elections. And for Shraj, they say that they believe security arrangements for the by-election by the Ghana Police Service were inadequate, and the deployment of heavily armed, masked and hooded security personnel to Labaoleshi polling center to harass, intimidate and shoot indiscriminately into the electorate, harming some in the process, was criminal and dastardly acts that should not be allowed to go unpunished. There's more. They're calling on the IGP and other law enforcement bodies to investigate thoroughly. Mr. Kamba, I wish we could go more into it, but I'm afraid we can't. So thank you both. And of course, they're also calling on the Commander-in-Chief, the President, to treat it as one of their highest issues of priority of the government. So there's more to come.
Please, we need to appeal, especially to His Excellency the President, that he needs to work hard to bring back, if there is any loss of confidence in the police, because he is now in charge. Mr. Kamba here,
our MP has refused to go and he said he will not go to the police because he doesn't trust them.
Mr. Kamba here is now blaming the police. Some time back, he would have defended them. What is the problem?
No, I won't defend them in this.
When you are in opposition, the police are not correct. When you are in government, they are okay.
It's not true.
Okay, we can't go into it because then otherwise I'd have to remind you of the protests at the Electoral Commission where the police were high-handed and beat up people like Gabi Asari Ochudaku and were defended by the government. Anyway, thank you very much, both of you, for your time. We're going to take a break, and when we return, even more on The Pulse.